Welcome to Real Life Social Difficulty. I'm your host, Alvin Luck. Now, how many of you have seen anime and thought that you had a character that you felt you could connect with because you've experienced what they've experienced? Yeah, quite a few of you. Well, I watched some of these animes and I saw characters now that I related to. Now there are two animes that I really want to point out to you today. The first one is Chobits. It was done in the early 90s, but I felt that it is very relevant. It was done ahead of its time. It is very relevant in today's society. I recommend you see it. It is a little on the 16 side, so do expect that. And the other one is Digimon Adventures. How many of you saw that as a child? Okay, how many of you gone on and watched it again as an adult? It is a dark series, isn't it? It is a very dark series, but it's good for reminders and references of what we should be focusing on. Okay. Now, what would you define as a social difficulty? Anyone? Okay. I consider social difficulties an invisible difficulty. Would you agree with that? Well, here's why I consider that the reason. Why I think physical difficulties are visible and social difficulties can be invisible. One is that a lot of physical difficulties can be natural. That means that some people are born with them. Some social difficulties can be natural in nature, but most are nurtured. You can actually nurture a social difficulty in someone and not realize it. Or someone may have nurtured a social difficulty into you without realizing it. Easier to identify and diagnose, harder to identify and diagnose. It's easier to identify someone's physical difficulty because it's easier to move and you can tell when they're hurt. But how can you diagnose social difficulties? Because a lot of them can be almost traveling packs. It's variations of each other. So that's the issue with social difficulties sometimes, is it's not as easy, and it's also harder to understand. You can understand when someone's having back issues or really has a limp because we've all experienced it. But how can you understand when someone's being shy or nervous? How do you understand what they're going through if you yourself have not gone through it yourself? Easy to treat, harder to treat. My mother just went through physical therapy for her hip surgery, and guess what? She had a start date and an end date. I don't have that for my anxiety. There's no real, it's hard to treat some social difficulties, and because of the dual nature of requiring a second person to assist, it gets complicated when you're trying to help improve yourself. More willing to forgive and less willing to forgive. I find that people are more willing to forgive someone with a physical difficulty than they are with someone who has a social difficulty. Think about that for a moment. Now, I'm going to go over some reasons that people have social difficulties. One of the big ones is social anxiety. I have social anxiety myself. I suffer from it almost daily sometimes. Social anxiety is a discomfort or fear when a person interacts with concerns being judged or evaluated by others. That is the goodest definition, that's the best definition I have for it. But here's an interesting fact. 12 to 14% of people in the US will suffer from it at least once in their lifetime. That means in a group of 20 people, 2 to 3 people may have social anxiety. And I want you to think about this. How many people are at this con right now? there is probably hundreds of people, which means you probably have a handful or more of people who have social anxiety right now. So you're not alone right now. You're not alone. Now, the anime character that I felt best represented social anxiety is Haru from The Cat Returns. How many of you have seen that movie? It's a good movie, but here's the interesting thing. She goes on this wild adventure that helps her overcome her anxiety, right? We don't have that in real life, do we? Not very many of us have a thrilling experience that helps us overcome ourselves, that helps us break through to the next level, which is where the challenges can be, that you may be held back sometimes because you don't know when to push yourself to the next level. How many can pronounce that? Anyone? Ikikomori. It means, it's literally pulling inward, being confined, acute social withdrawal. They show traits of agoraphobia, but here's the thing, most start out with social anxiety. They will collapse in because of social pressures. Now, in Japan, that's acceptable, but in the US, our parents would kick us out the door, wouldn't they? If we tried that, if we tried to stay confined in one room for more than a day or two. Or a month. Now, sometimes people have anxiety because they're intimidated by someone or a personal authority or that. This is a common thing that occurs. And here's the best character, I think, represented, Yamcha. How many of you saw the original season of Dragon Ball? Yamcha was scared of Bulma, wasn't he? He could fight Goku all he wanted, but you get him in front of Bulma and he freezes in his chicken and scared of her. But that is social anxiety. And here's an interesting fact. If given a choice between potential extreme danger or potential social embarrassment, what do you think people are more likely to choose?
Danger.
They are actually more likely to go towards danger than potential social embarrassment. So the fact that you approach someone or risk social embarrassment means you're being braver than some people, than most people. So that's a thought, because true courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the strength to overcome it. Now, fitting into a group. Sometimes people have anxiety, it's because they don't feel like they belong to a group. Now, one of my characters, and she's a new addition, is Yuki from Wolf Children. How many of you have seen that movie? Interesting fact is that a lot of people don't realize that her merging with the group, that she's an outsider at first, but she eventually becomes part of the group, is for an interesting reason, and it's a Japanese cultural thing. How many can pronounce that? Good, you can say it out loud if you want to. Diru kuiwa utariru. I think I said that right. It is a nail that sticks out and pounded down. This is a common Japanese phrase that is used because the Japanese people don't always like to stick out. But this can apply to social anxiety sometimes because you may be afraid that you stand out or that you won't fit in and you may be pounded down for it. So that is the real issue. That is why her transition to a different person is so understandable in the context of that movie. And sometimes we do have to change to fit a group. Like for instance, when we start a new job, we have to fit within the rules of the job, don't we? We can't go around in our cosplays. We have to confine to the rules of that area, of that place. Now, why I feel conventions are good. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, is that right now, you are among people who are that you are connected to. We're all here for almost all the same reason. We like what? Anime, holidays, the comics, everything, right? We're geeks. What we like, what is popular. I mean, I walk around and find out what's popular now. And then I heard about Goblin Slayer, I'm like, maybe I should look into this one. And what we want to share with others. A lot of people cosplay their favorite characters just to show off their love for the character and to share with their characters, share with people. And we're not weird here. We can be normal here. Now, the reason I say why I have those two words in the caption is I like to say, define normal. Because no one is really normal. But here we are more normal to people. We are among each other. We're among people. So now is a good time to make connections with people and make friends. Now, relationships. Here's the thing that most people don't realize about relationships. Some people think that it's just a coupling of a couple, when the fact is that a relationship is an association of acquaintance between two or more people. Now, I want you to think of that for a moment, because that means that your family is you have relationships with your family, you have relations with your friends, which really ticks me off when my friends say, I don't know what it's like to be in a relationship, and it's like, what are you and I? Your classmates, of course, for those who are still going to school, co-workers for those working, and you and me. You're my audience, I'm the presenter. That's a type of relationship. Okay, now, when I talk about friendship, I don't believe in a circle of friends. That's just closed in, it is not ever expanding. I prefer a spiral of friends. I prefer to have a spiral of friends. Because I can have my core group of friends and hang with them, but I never stop letting the spiral grow. I always try to keep adding people. And the connections can be all sorts of different ways to communicate with each other. Now, sometimes we have anxiety or because of body appearance, our body image. I mean, would you believe I have a body image issue? I am skinny to the point that I have women who wish they weighed as much as me. I'm a guy. I shouldn't have women wishing they weighed as much as me. Now, the character I think best represented this is Makino from the Daily Life of Monster Girls. It's a good series. Again, a little on the adult side, but I recommend it. Now, her issue is that people can't look her in the eye, one eye, which is unique in nature, and she also doesn't feel like she's as well endowed with her other coworkers. But there is a later chapter in the series that actually helps deal with this and helps her grow, and it's a great chapter. I recommend you read the series. Now, let's look at some of the causes of social difficulties. Here's the interesting thing. Most people, when they think about events in time, they think of a straight line. Not me. I think of them as interconnected events, that not all events affect each other. No event happens in isolation. So you've got to look at what causes the event, cause and effect. That's my biggest thing. Now, how many of you were bullied in school? How many were the bullies? Well, I was a bully, and I'll explain that later. But here's the types of bullies that we have. Now, many of you know of the school bully, work bully. Your coworkers can be bullies, and so can customers. I've had customers bully me at work. They think they can get away with stuff just by pressing, and I have to give in because that's the rules. There's also cyberbullies. Now, here's the thing about cyberbullies. A lot of social media is now catching up with those facts, and they are working to improve it so that you can actually block people who you feel are being abusive. You can do things about it. You can report them. I actually had to block an old friend on Facebook because of certain things he said. But there are a few things but there's two types of bullies that people don't realize. One is a friendly bully. Your friends can be bullies. They try to use the word peer pressure on you when it's not. It is a type of bullying. For me, it's got to be more than one person to really be effective. And there's the unintentional or accidental bully. This is the saddest kind of bully because I was one of those. They don't mean to be bullies. They didn't do it on purpose. It was an issue. They forced themselves. I bullied a girl once and I felt bad, and finally when I got to apologize to her, she really didn't think I had bullied her, but I still felt good that she forgave me for it. I felt I did, but she didn't. Now, how many noticed I used this symbol in the title slide? Who knows what that represents? It's an equal sign, and it's used in programming that basically means that both are the same on thing. Now, why would you think I consider teasing and bullying to be the same thing? Well, let me give you a personal story. As you know, my name is Alvin, and how many of you, when you first heard that name, thought Alvin and the Chipmunks? Probably a lot. Well, here's the thing. How many times do you think I get people who say, hey, where's Simon and Theodore? Where's, hey, the Chipmunks? Or the dreaded David Seville call, Alvin! It gets annoying. And I will tell you, at work one time, I had complete strangers coming up and telling me that because I had to wear a name tag. And so finally, after an incident where someone's like, hey, I bet we made his day, after doing that, I wanted to turn around and say, no, you didn't. You just reminded me of all the teasing that I went through. And so I finally wrote down and changed my name tag from Alvin to Al, just to stop the teasing. And that's how bad teasing can be. So you can tease. I mean, I let select people do teasing, like my managers. They can do the David Seville call because that's a legitimate thing. And the people who understand how I feel about it and don't do it all the time. So it is okay to tease, but know to do it in moderation. Now, sometimes we have improper social development. Now, one of the anime characters, I know I haven't had an anime character for the last couple of slides, is mostly because of isolation. Improper development can be because of isolation. This is basically the character, Master Roshi. He lived on an island and he wasn't exactly the most sociable of people. He got into trouble sometimes with many ladies. But here's an interesting thing. People were accepting of him eventually. But on the flip side, we had Goku. He was naive and a bit socially isolated and had social difficulties sometimes. But people were more willing to accept his difficulty because he's a child. There comes a point when people stop accepting social difficulties and improper social skills because they expect you to have those skills at this time. And it's like, what if you didn't have the catch-up? For instance, types of isolations can include location. Sometimes you live someplace where you don't get to communicate well with people. There's also social. There are people, like for instance, classes. I used to go to special ed classes, and those classes weren't exactly good for social development. I thought I was smarter than everyone in that class, but that's a whole other story. Economical. Sometimes if you're flat broke, you can't go out. You can't visit the places that you want to go. I mean, some of us save up money just to go to these cons, but we can't go traveling all over the place. And the final one is physical. Here's an interesting thing. I have a friend, she has vision problems and she can't really go out at night. But when are most of the best activities at? Night. daytime is usually reserved for work or school, so how can she really get out there and have fun if she can't really drive at night? Now, sometimes social difficulties can occur because of what I call the misses. A misunderstanding, a miscommunication. Let's see, misunderstanding, miscommunication, misperception, sometimes that can occur, and misinterpretation of an action. Now, there's one thing about all of these things that they have in common. They're mistakes. You made a mistake, and that caused you an issue. And that can be a problem with social difficulties. Because here's the thing, in video games we have extra lives and checkpoints that allow us to go back and try again. We don't have that in real life, do we? We can't say, okay, we messed up here, let's start over and try again. Or do we? Forgiveness. It can be the extra life or the checkpoint. You're basically saying, okay, yes, you messed up, I'll give you another chance. And that is a good thing to do, as if you can get forgiveness and try again to be better at yourself. Now, part of the misses can lead to disappointments and failures, that you don't feel like you're successful. I've heard it said that you learn more from your failures than your successes. But what if you never feel like you succeed? What if you always feel like you failed at stuff? How much damage can that do to the person? How much can that hurt them? And so that is something so people have to focus on your small successes. You may not have the big victories under your belt, but small successes can lead to greater successes. Now, bullying, isolation, the misses, and improper social development have one thing in common, and this is the biggest reason people have social difficulties. Negativity. Someone was negative, and it affected the person in such a way that it damaged their social skills. Negativity is one of the biggest causes of social difficulties because it brings you down and brings self-doubt into you. Now, let's look at some of the effects of social difficulties. First one I want to talk about is depression. Now, depression is not just being sad. It is persuasive and low. It is hard to get someone out of depressed. You cannot, if you tell someone to cheer up when they're depressed, that may actually make them feel worse. Depression is a very hard and complicated system. Now, the character I feel that best represented depression is Jericho from Digimon Tamers. I'm not going to tell you the reason that she gets depressed. It's a great reason, but it took everyone, and it took all her friends and then some to knock her out of the depression. Then they had to rescue her. But it's still, but it can be very hard to knock someone out of depression. It takes you everything you've got. But on the other hand, we had Simone from Gurren Lagann. He did go into depression, and people tried to cheer him up. And they were somewhat successful, but here's the thing. If you think it's hard being a friend to someone who's depressed, it's harder being a friend who is depressed, who has depression, because they know the weight they're bringing down on people. So you have to try to help them understand that a bit. Loneliness can also be an effect of social difficulties. You can feel alone, very lonely. Now, how many of you know the difference between being alone and lonely? Well, first of all, let's look at an example. Hello, the Wise Wolf. How many of you have seen Spice and Wolf? Good series, but she was lonely, wasn't she? She had no one really to talk to for a while, and even when she connected up with someone, she it took her a while to really connect with the person. And she's very much feels lonely in her long life. Now, again, let's look at the difference between lone and loneliness. A person who's okay with being alone and a lonely person, the person who's okay with being alone, they don't mind being not talking to someone. What's the big deal? A lonely person wishes they had someone to talk to. They want to talk to people. They want to connect. A person who's okay with being alone, they don't mind it being too quiet. They can sit in a quiet room. Quietness can unnerve a lonely person. I have had times where I have to have background noise just to keep my sanity up. A person who's okay being alone, they don't mind being among friends. They can hang out with their friends or not. A lonely person, they can feel alone even among a group of friends. I've been the odd wheel of a lot of times, and I've even had it where I had two couples and someone getting married, and it was like, and I'm single, and it's, hello, I have no one to talk to really. I don't get your connections and what you're doing. And speaking of that, a person who's okay with being alone, they can be around couples. A lonely person can feel very uncomfortable around couples. I will tell you, when I see lovey-doveyness around, I get sick to my stomach because of how lonely it makes me feel sometimes, and how much I wish I could experience that. Now, this leads to what I call social hunger. This is something that I feel I suffer from. And for me, it's because I don't have a balanced social diet. Many people don't realize that their socialization is just as important as a physical meal. And that can lead to a lot of these things. I know that I crave female affection, and it's an issue. It's one of the reasons I can't go to the maid cafe, Pico Pico. I love those girls. I used to go to them. But I can't because I'm afraid I'm going to fall for one of the maids again. Note the words again. That's how bad I can be with my cravings. Now, I'm going to give you some general tips to start with, and now the first one can be used for both people who have the difficulties and those who have to interact with it, and that is to just listen, but hear the person out. And this is an interesting thing because sometimes people just want someone to talk to, so just listening helps you connect with them. I've been the ear for someone for a while, for times, and they appreciate it and they stay connected with me longer. Be aware. That is to be aware means to, if you know the person has social difficulties, be aware of it. Help them through some of it. If they have anxiety, figure out what's causing it. Help them figure out what's causing their anxiety. Talk to them about it because they may not see it. Sometimes it's a blind spot. I mean, the autism spectrum disorder, or the high functioning in the spectrum, there's notorious blind spots in social skills in there, and that sometimes you just need to let them know, hey, you're kind of in the wrong area right now. Encourage through acknowledgement. Here's the thing, I was hanging with my friends once, and I said, hey, I managed to talk to this girl once, and they're like, oh, that's cool. I got curtains for my kid's room. How is that related? When one of my friends should have done, hey, that's great, what did you guys talk about? Did you do this? Did you not stutter or that? That's the type of encouragement that you should be giving, is through acknowledging that they are trying. Now for people with the difficulty, practice. Practice is a very important thing, but here's an interesting thing I've heard. Someone said that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is craziness. That's the definition of crazy. Isn't that also the definition for practice? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? So Play to strengths, not to weaknesses. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. I don't go out much to the clubs or that because, guess what? I'm not good there. That's not my strength. But at these cons, I'm a chatty as heck. I'm friendly, I talk to everyone I can, because this is where I am strong. This is where my strengths come into play. Because of my knowledge. I know anime, I know this, I know that. That's what I mean by play to your strengths, not to your weaknesses. You can actually come out better if you do that. Now, I'm going to leave you with a story. How many of you can read that? Tsuki no Ushigai. It also means the moon rabbit. Now, how many have heard of this story? It's a Japanese folklore, it's also Chinese. But let me tell you, one day, rabbit, fox, and monkey went out to do some charity in the world. Now, they came across, they were doing it to get to please gods. Now, they came across a poor traveling beggar. And monkey, being smart, climbed up a tree and got some fruit. Fox, being sly, some say he stole food. Some say he killed a lizard. I feel sorry for a lizard right now. But rabbit couldn't climb trees, he couldn't get fruit, he couldn't steal food. He ate only grass. And people don't eat grass, not the way rabbits do. But they do eat rabbit meat. So rabbit did something unexpected. He jumped into the cook fire, basically offering himself. And you're thinking, what? He's crazy. But it turned out rabbit did not get burned. That guy was a kami, a god. And he was so touched by rabbit's generosity and charity and nobility that he painted the rabbit on the moon so that everyone would know the deeds of rabbit. So basically the message is, if you feel you have nothing to give yourself. Be the person that is the ear. Don't be trying to just, I don't know how else to put it, just try to be there for the person and let them listen and listen for them. Now, I'm the founder of Social Debugging. It's a group that's trying to help people with social difficulties or those who have to interact with them. You can contact us if you like us to host this elsewhere. I'm always looking for new conventions to go to. Feedback is welcome. You can tell me whatever you want. I will gladly listen to it. And we're trying to become a business. That's other details. Now, you can find us. I'm starting a YouTube video series. That QR code will take you directly to the playlist. And it is I'm going to go into more details on social difficulty, so if you really like this, you can continue. Now, we're on Facebook as Social Debugging. We also have a YouTube channel, Social Debugging. We're on Reddit, our Social Debugging. Or you can just search your favorite search engine for Social Debugging and you'll find us. All right. Now, a final word on changing. Changing can be hard. You may even have to shed your friends. I went through several friends during that time that I was becoming different. I lost a lot of friends, but that was because they didn't realize that the person I was last week, I wasn't this week, and I wouldn't be that person then the next week. I was going through so many changes, and I had to, so it can be hard, but it is worth it. And that is it. That's all, folks.